This is a very exciting time for PC handhelds. We're on the advent of a new generation of PC handhelds, and a lot of the OG classic players in this industry are making moves to release new handhelds. Like GPD with the Pocket 4, there's the 1X player device that is coming out early next year. Some of the original mainstream players before Asus, Valve, Lenovo all entered the space, there were the originals, Neo, GPD, Ein. All these companies rather, have been making handhelds for quite a bit longer than Lenovo and Asus have been. And they're probably quicker to the punch than other companies can be because they're smaller, more dynamic companies. And we're finally getting some more information about the Neo 3. If you guys remember, a few weeks ago, I discussed the announcement in my hypothesis, my expectations for what is going to be inside this thing in terms of performance, pricing, and availability. We do not know pricing or availability quite yet, but we do know what's on the inside and a bunch of the other major specs and the whole new visual redesign, which isn't as insane as a change as I was expecting, but I still really like the new look. So let's jump right into this with the fact that they're introducing two different models. A 7-inch LCD high refresh rate screen that is natively horizontal, which is actually really important for just overall quality of life, because a lot of devices like Windows on Steam Deck or the Legion Go or something like that all have native portrait displays that you have to manually rotate in Windows to, sort of be landscape in the sense. And so that could cause some just weird minor issues, nothing too major, but it's just an annoyance or an inconvenience to most people. And having a native horizontal display is just a nice quality of life feature. But they have a nicer, higher end 7-inch HDR OLED high refresh rate display with high brightness. My theory is I suspect this display comes from the Neo Evo. Because if you take a look at that device's screen, it's also a 7-inch OLED HDR high refresh rate, high brightness display. So I feel like it's quite reasonable to make the sort of logical assumption that this is the same screen found on that. So the high refresh rate, while we don't necessarily have confirmed numbers of what refresh rate the device is going to be on the Neo 3, but what we currently do know for the Evo is that is a 165 Hz display, which if the Neo 3 uses that same display, it will make it one of the highest refresh rate displays on any PC handheld in the entire industry. Alongside of having the two different screen options, they will also have two different CPU options. The very well used AMD Ryzen 8840U, which we've all gotten used to. The Pocket Go from Techno uses that same processor. It's very similar to the Z1 Extreme, just with AI nonsense bolted onto it. So that's pretty standard, and it's not too surprising to see at this point. But what we do see for the first time in any Neo device is the AMD Ryzen AI 9 HX370 with the all-new 890M integrated graphics, which is what to me is most important. Sure, the 8840U is there as a cheaper alternative, but I see the HX370 showing up in probably the higher tier option exclusive to the OLED screen, which probably puts this device well in excess of $1,200 probably at the end of the day. And I suspect they'll have a base memory capacity of 16 all the way up to 64 gigabytes like they do on most of the other devices. On top of that, it'll probably start with 512 gigs of storage all the way up to 2 terabytes like they do on some of their other devices in the first place. So I feel like that's pretty standard specage for what this device is inevitably going to end up being. The design is just a refinement of what we've seen currently on the current Neo lineup. It is more refined, it's more rounded, which I really like because originally it's just a giant flat pane of glass covering the top, which that's still the case, but it's rounded on the edges, and it now introduces a rear back button on both sides of the controller, which I'm not entirely happy about. I'm not a huge fan of back buttons, and I frankly don't even like the ones on the Steam Deck, which has 4 of them. To me, it's just something I feel all the time, and it just always bothers me. I just wish it was a flat plane of just no buttons, essentially. And so seeing them on here isn't disappointing, but it's just like, come on, I never use these things. Even when I was the most intense, hardcore Call of Duty gamer, I never used them. It just seemed superfluous to me. But I do understand there are quite a bit of people who enjoy having the rear back buttons, so I'm happy they're there for those who care. But unfortunately, I do not. Something I'm really excited about is that they have trigger locks. Basically, on the Elite controllers you find out there for Xbox and PlayStation, you can adjust the tension on the triggers to change how shallow or deep you want that trigger to press. And that is, to me, so satisfying. If you drop that thing all the way down to the most shallow press, it makes playing FPS games so much more immediate and more fun, for me at least, just because of how quick and snappy that is. And I genuinely am appreciative of seeing that feature come to these PC handhelds. That it makes this a relatively unique feature among other PC handhelds. And it also has what they call an iconic brand design artistic aesthetic. It's a lot of company lingo of just new design language for the company. It also has light up stick gates, which some people might like that. I kind of don't because I play in the dark most of the time. So it just burns my retinas. So I always find a way to turn it off or have it as low of brightness as possible because it also just sucks up battery life needlessly. And they also have a refined immersive sound audio experience, which is nice. I've never complained about audio on a PC handheld before, but when it's really good, it is nice to notice it. But I've also never cared enough to pay attention to it because I'm usually wearing headphones or it's turned down to like 25% because I'm like also watching Netflix or YouTube or something when I'm playing at the same time. So it just seems kind of pointless to have really nice audio on this unless I was watching movies on it, which you might because it's a 7-inch HDR OLED, so maybe you might want to do that. But without probably not great the battery life is going to be, I doubt that's going to be something a lot of people will be doing. As for pricing, I expect this thing to cost anywhere between $1,000 to $1,200, maybe $850 for the 8840U version with the bare minimum specs. But I highly suspect that's not going to be the one most people are buying because it's just more of the same with the new design. So unless you really liked the new design and you're comfortable with the 780M's performance as it stands today, sure, that might be a decent option, but might as well just buy an ROG Ally or something because that would be a much better use of your money. And in terms of launch window, I suspect we'll get the rest of the information early January. That's by the time we reach early January, we probably have all the information we know about release times and pricing, availability, all that stuff. Indiegogo probably would have launched by then. So I suspect we'll probably get all the information by January, and full release will probably happen in March to April. Other than that, I would love to hear what you guys think. Are you excited about the iNeo 3? Have you been looking forward to more of these Ryzen AI HX 370 based chips coming out in these PC handhelds? I would love to hear what you guys think down below. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. All the other social media garbage down below. And last but not least, have a wonderful day.